Well, I think actually this whole implosion with BCU and the BC Conservatives, juggling people around and, playing fast and loose with everybody's lives, I think it's actually been really good for the voters
Yeah.
because now you can see where the allegiances are and they are not to you.
It's been exposed.
Well put.
Been exposed.
Yeah, well put. Yeah. For me, same thing, right? But the positive, right? The positive is, like I was saying earlier, I hear all these people talking about, they wish there was nonpartisan politics. Well, British Columbia, I mean, here's your opportunity. We have 13, 14 people running as independents that could easily control the government if they were, actually in almost any situation, they could have the swing vote for the government if they all got in. So you want, personal representation, and as Glenn said, you want accountability. You should take a good hard look at who you're voting for, not just the party. And I'll say the same thing that I say every time I run for the mayor is the only thing I'm going to promise is that I work hard, because you're right, Glenn, the bureaucracy is a little challenging. And so when you do vision planning and try and make things happen, you really have to bring the bureaucrats along as well. It's not that simple, right? Because if you get a bureaucrat that digs in their feet and decides that they don't want to play, they could just drag something out so long that it doesn't happen. And with people that don't understand government or don't have business background, they will just get played like a banjo. So it's important, again, to make sure you take a look at who's running and do a bit of research. And I think because of all this tomfoolery, that the voter has become more aware, and I think they're going to pay attention. Yeah,
I think so. And there's a lot of people who are still desperately grasping onto that. We have to vote Conservative because that's the only answer, but it is not the only answer, because the problem is if you vote for a party that gets in and is made up of the same people who just did nothing for our province for the past X number of years, we're going to get 4 more years of what we've had, which is not a solution.
I hate the thought of what's been said to me a number of times, and I'm not voting a party in, I'm voting a party out. And it's like, oh man, there's got to be a better way. And
exactly.
So, this shakeup, I mean, it's given an opportunity.
Well, I'm rooting for you guys.
Yeah, thank you. Glenn, thank you for, making time for us for this interview. I mean, it's always a pleasure to be able to speak to, constituents, and, so nice to meet you and spend some time with you and hear your story again.
Sorry we didn't have a couple more people sitting in this room.
Because I really honestly, I was hoping Dennis would show up, not so that we could, beat up on the way things went, because obviously he got put here, although he didn't have to take it. But I wanted to know.
He could have ended up like me.
Yeah, exactly. He could have taken the high road that led to the high road. Not a great situation for you. But I would like to know, how somebody does that and feels that they are, because obviously he feels
but it's exactly this whole end justifies the means. We've got to get the NDP out at any cost. So now we're going to slide somebody in who is, going to get the votes, and we're going to slide you over here because we're so confident we're going to win Vernon anyway. It doesn't matter who you are or whatever the logic is, right?
And in the meantime, you're really basically giving the voters a bit of a slap in the side of the head, going, we don't think you're paying attention, so it doesn't matter.
You're just going to vote for the color anyway.
That's right. Yeah. You're voting the NDP out.
I just want to reinforce that point, because what happened in this particular riding is not only are we sort of the rear end of this whole thing, getting whatever was left over from the pool of what was available, but even the members of the riding for the Conservative Party threw their hands up in the air and said, we're done with this deal, right?
Yeah.
This is not the way democracy is supposed to work.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be operating in a participatory democracy where if you want my vote on election day, you better want my input when it comes to the person that you're going to put in front of me as a candidate.
If you
don't give me that option, I'm not going to be a real happy constituent, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And if you really want to hear that said exquisitely, spending half an hour in Daryl Stinson's living room. Whoa. Because, the old style politics had a lot of integrity, right? There might have been a lot of arguments and outwardly fighting, but the integrity was there, the handshake deals, the openness, the accountability. It's so different, eh? Not that he didn't run across the floor and threaten to beat somebody up at one point, but at least it was on TV. Right?
Yeah, no, it just seems like the last 20 or 30 years, it's just been this downhill slide into mud, right?
Yeah.
Like nobody is responsible. Politicians lie. They will tell you whatever you want to hear so that you elect them, and then they forget you altogether. So
the quagmire.
And I'll tell you why Dennis isn't here, most likely, is because as a Conservative candidate, and I'm not sure if it's the same for BCU, you have to get the party's blessing for every event that you go to.
Correct.
So even had he wanted to attend, there's no way he would have been allowed to attend. And if he had attended, he would have been so hamstrung in what he could say, because as a candidate, you are only allowed to say certain things and not others. And that's the other frustrating thing about this whole thing, is you're just hearing the sound bites.
That's
and
right.
You have no idea what your candidate actually believes. They don't probably even know what they actually believe, because they're just waiting for the next policy platform to drop so they can say, axe the tax.
Yeah. Although,
I'd like to leave this on a high note, and I think the high note for voters and constituents is that, again, let's make some lemonade out of this lemon. And we have an opportunity now.
Yeah.
With independent candidates, we have a chance to change the system that has become very, very unpalatable to very many people. Most people are very cynical. We only have half the population at best that ever votes in provincial elections. And that's because people are disillusioned. People don't believe. And in fact, if you look at the Edelman Trust Barometer, the politicians and mainstream media are at the top of the group that people do not trust. Plain and simple, right? Yeah. So we can change that. This is a chance for a paradigm shift. And it's up to not just the parties, it's not up to the candidates, it's up to us as individuals, as voters, to take personal responsibility, get involved, know your candidates, know what they stand for, ask the tough questions, and vote accordingly. Don't do what the media tells you to do. Don't do what the party tells you to do. Do what your heart and head tell you to do after you've done some critical thinking. Yeah. And that's the biggest problem that we have in democracy, is that the system was built on trust and accountability and transparency. And once that disappears, and once we abrogate our responsibility as voters to hold people in power to account, we're more responsible than anybody else in this process. So smarten up, folks. Get involved. Get engaged. And let's make some things happen. Okay, so I'd like to thank you very much. We have Alexandra right here from Kelowna, who's driven all the way up here to be here this afternoon. We have Kevin Acton, who's preparing for his single malt tasting session later today, and his door knocking, and he better do it
late for door knocking.
Yeah, he better do it in the other order. I think he better door knock first before he does the single malt tasting.
That's always a good idea.
I don't know, might be more entertaining.
And again, I would like to thank you both very much for being here. For those that again didn't catch the start, we also had invited and hoped that the MLA Sandu, Harwinder Sandu, would be here, along with Dennis Giesbrecht, who was representing the Conservative Party. Both of them initially expressed interest, but for the record, both of them did not respond to our later inquiries, and therefore are not here this afternoon. And maybe in some respects, maybe that's just as well, because we had a wonderful conversation with two people that get it and that will work for you.
Thank you.
Thanks.